So students, after the Ohm's law in vector form, our next topic is the mobility of charge carriers. Whenever the charge carriers are acquiring the drift velocity after the application of external field or force, in that case they are mobile, and whenever the charge particles are mobile, they constitute the current. So what is mobility? The mobility of charge carriers is the drift velocity acquired by the charge carrier in a unit electric field. So mu is the symbol for mobility, and that is equals to drift velocity per unit electric field. So mu is equals to Vd upon E. As we know that Vd is equals to E tau upon m, that is charge q. So the mobility for the charge carrier will be Vd upon E, and that is q tau upon m. For an electron, the mobility will be mu e, that is E tau e, that is the relaxation time for the electrons upon the mass of electron. For holes, in case of semiconductor, the mobility will be mu h, that is the mobility of hole is equals to charge on hole is same as that of charge on electron. Tau n is the relaxation time for the holes, and mh will be the mass of that hole. So mu e and mu h both are positive, although their drift velocities are opposite. Electron drifts from the negative to the positive terminal, and the hole drift from positive to the negative. That is, they are having opposite drift velocities direction, but their mobilities are both positive. SI unit for mobility is what? It is meter square per volt per second. What is the relation between the electric current and the mobility of a conductor? We know that the current in terms of the drift velocity is NEAVD, but Vd is what? In terms of mobility, it is mobility into the electric field strength. So therefore, the current will be NEA mu E into E. This is the relation for the electrons. Similarly, the current constituted by the holes will be NE A mu H E, or we can say that here we are taking N for electron. For the whole case we can take it as P for the positive charge carriers. So there is a relation between the electric current and the mobility of semiconductor, and that is the electric current in a semiconductor is given by, that is the sum of electric current due to the hole and due to the electrons. So I is IE plus IH. Let us substitute the values of current in terms of the drift velocities. We are having total current is equals to ENAVD plus EPAVD, where P is the hole density, N is the electron density, and current is equals to ENA mu E into E, because drift velocity is mu E, and here the drift velocity for hole will be mu H into E. Let us combine the terms. The total current for a given semiconductor is EAE. These are the constant terms. What are varying for that? The electron density and the mobility of electron, hole density and the mobility of holes. So this is the required total current for a given semiconductor. Now what is the conductivity of a semiconductor? According to Ohm's law, we are having current is equals to potential upon the resistance. Potential is field strength into the length of the conductor. Resistance is resistivity into length upon area. After solving this, we are getting current is EA rho, and from equation 1 we are having the current is equals to this. So let us combining these two equations 1 and 2. what we are getting? EA upon rho is equals to EAE N mu E plus P mu H. E and E will get cancelled out, and what will get? 1 upon rho, that is the conductivity, is equals to E into mu E into N plus mu H into P, and we know that this 1 upon rho is nothing but the conductivity. So the conductivity for a given semiconductor will be given as charge into the electron density, mobility of electron plus the hole density and mobility of hole. So this will be the required resultant conductivity for a given conductor. After this, let us solve few numericals based on the conductivity, resistivity for a given conducting or semiconductor device. So in this given numerical, we are having a potential difference of 6 volt is applied across a conductor whose length is 0.12 meter. We need to calculate the drift velocity of electrons. If electron mobility is 5.6 into 10 raised to power minus 6 meter square per volt per second. So what are the given quantities? Potential is given, length is given, mobility is given. And the formula for drift velocity is mu E. Substituting the values, E is not given but potential and length is given. Applying the formula of that potential gradient. So drift velocity is mobility into potential divided by L. After calculating the terms, we are having the drift velocity is 2.8 into 10 raised to power minus 4 meter per second. In second numerical, we are having a semiconductor has the electron concentration, that is N is given, and hole concentration is given. Find the conductivity. Given electron mobility is this and hole mobility is this, and the charge on an electron is 1.6 into 10 raised to power minus 19 coulomb. So these are the given terms: electron density, hole density, electron mobility, hole mobility. We know the formula for conductivity for a given semiconductor is E, that is the charge on charge particle, into N mu E plus P mu H. Substituting the values and solving this, we are getting the conductivity for this given semiconductor is 3.84 Siemens per meter. Now, after finding out the conductivity and resistivity, let us discuss few terms on which the resistivity depends. As we know that resistance of a conductor depends upon the length and area, the material and the temperature. But resistivity is independent of the length and area of a material. So varying the length and area for a given material or a conductor does not vary the resistivity of that given conductor. So resistivity depends upon temperature. How that depends upon temperature? We know that the formula for resistivity is Ne square upon tau. For metals, this resistivity is proportional to 1 upon tau, and this is a relaxation time. So the resistivity of a metal increases with increase in temperature. How it is increases? When we are increasing the temperature, in that case, the successive collision between the particles increases after gaining the energy, and with that increasing collision, the relaxation time for the charge carriers reduces. Hence, the relaxation time reduces and the resistivity increases. And there is a relation for the resistivity dependence on temperature. Rho is equals to rho naught into 1 plus alpha T minus T naught. In this equation, rho naught is your resistivity at lower temperature, that is temperature T naught, which is generally 20 degrees Celsius, that is standard temperature, and alpha is the coefficient of resistivity. From this equation 1, alpha comes out to be rho minus rho naught divided by rho naught T minus T naught, and that is equals to 1 upon rho naught change in resistivity divided by the change in temperature. Now this temperature coefficient of resistivity can also be defined as increase in resistivity, increase in this resistivity per unit resistivity per degree rise in temperature. So increase or change in resistivity per unit resistivity with the change in temperature. For alloys, resistance is equals to this, and what we are getting, that resistance and resistivity are proportional to each other. So there is a formula for the alloys that resistance is equals to, for a given temperature, is equals to R naught into 1 plus alpha T, where R naught is the rise in temperature, resistance of the temperature at T degrees Celsius, and T is the temperature rise. So this is the relation for the alloys. Now let us compare the resistivity for a given conductor and for a given alloy. In case of the conductors, the resistivity graph is like this. There is linear change in resistivity for a given metal. So with rise in temperature, the resistivity rises linearly. But in case of nichrome, with rise in temperature, the resistivity is like this. This is of the order of 10 raised to power minus 6 micro, and here it is less than that. So the resistivity for metal is less as compared to the resistivity for an alloy, and nichrome is very good example for the alloys. Now what will be the effect on the resistivity for semiconductor and insulator? How the resistivity of these substances vary with rise in temperature. So tau is independent of temperature in these cases. That is, the number density of electron at temperature T is given by the relation. This is N, number density of electron at temperature T, and this relation is N naught, original number density, e raised to power minus Eg divided by kBT. Now what is this Eg? Eg is the energy gap between the valence and conduction band. kBT is the Boltzmann constant, and T is the temperature. Now as we conclude that, or we know that resistivity is proportional to or inversely proportional to the electron density. So applying the formula this over here, what we are getting, 1 upon rho is equals to 1 upon rho naught e raised to power minus Eg plus kBT. And what we are concluding from this? We are concluding that resistivity is rho naught E raised to power Eg upon kBT. Now at room temperature, this kBT value is 0.03 electron volt. But for semiconductors, this is less than 1 electron volt. And for the insulator, this energy gap, this Eg is greater than 1 electron volt. So at room temperature, the semiconductor also behaves as insulator, but when the temperature rises, in that case, this energy gap reduces and the semiconductor starts conducting. But this is very large for the insulator, and hence the resistivity of insulator is very high. And we can see it from this graph. As the temperature increases, with the increase in temperature, there is fall in the resistivity, and this is opposite to the case of our conductors. In case of conductor, with rise in temperature, the resistivity increases, but here in this case of the insulator, the resistivity decreases with rise in temperature. This is the case for conductor, and this is the case for the semiconductors. So both behaves in opposite manner with rise in temperature in terms of resistivity. Now what are the limitations of Ohm's law? that Ohm's law is not equally applicable to all the materials exist in nature. Ohm's law is not equally applicable for all the metals. So, in terms of limitation of Ohm's law, we can categorize the conductors also in two different categories. One is ohmic conductors, another one is non-ohmic conductors. What are ohmic conductors? Those conductors which obey Ohm's law are called ohmic conductors. Like the pure metals, like our electrolytic solutions. So you can see that with increase in potential, there is rise in current. With increase in negative potential, again there is increase in negative current. Here in case of electrolyte also, increase in potential, increase in current, increase in negative potential, increase in current again. But in case of non-ohmic conductors, they do not obey Ohm's law. So we are not getting a straight line graph. That is, V is not directly proportional to the current. So in case of metals as well, we are having non-ohmic conductors, like as we increase, the V is proportional to I, but if further the temperature is increased, the conductor behaves as or showing the non-ohmic behavior. So what is the basic difference between this type of metallic conductor and this type of metallic conductor? The basic difference is the change in temperature. For ohmic nature, the temperature should be constant. If we are changing the temperature for a given conductor, that is, if we are increasing the temperature for a given conductor, in that case, the conductor starts behaving the non-ohmic character. So here you can see that initially the conductor was behaving as the ohmic conductor. Now after with rise in temperature, it is showing the behavior of non-ohmic conductor. Water voltmeter. In that case, with increase in potential, there is no change in the current through that particular voltmeter. After reaching a threshold value, that is the V0, with further increase in potential, the current starts flowing through that particular conductor. So this is the case of a water voltmeter. Now let us consider the case of a semiconductor. In a semiconductor, you can see that with rise in temperature, what is happening? When we are providing the energy, the temperature rises, electron gain energy. With that gaining energy, if the potential is increased, current increases linearly. In negative potential, that is in reverse direction, the graph is like this. So from here, what we are saying that the current is not increasing, or we can say that the current or potential are not proportional to each other, and there is a exponential relation between the current and potential. Let us consider the case of thyristor. Thyristor is a thermodynamic substance or semiconductor device. Here we can say that with rise in potential, the graph is linear. With increase in potential, the current remains constant. Then current decreases with increase in potential, and further, after reaching a particular position A, with further fall in potential, the current is increasing. And again, they are showing as the semiconductor behavior over here. So these are the cases for the conductors, for the insulators, for ohmic, non-ohmic conductors. Now there is another important term, that is the superconductivity. Now what is the meaning of this superconductivity? Means under certain circumstances, your conducting substance start to behave as a superconductor. Its conductivity is increasing drastically. Now what are these superconductors, and what is the phenomena of the superconductivity of a given conductor? The phenomenon of complete loss of resistivity. A substance can behave as superconductor if its conductivity is increased abruptly, and that is possible only if the resistivity is reduced to zero. So the phenomenon of complete loss of resistivity by certain metals and alloys when they are cooled below a certain temperature. So when we are cooling a particular substance below a certain temperature, which is known as the Curie temperature, the substance behaves as superconductor, and the phenomenon is known as superconductivity. And that temperature under which this transition takes place is known as the critical or Curie temperature. So for that particular temperature, your conductivity is very high and resistivity reduces to 0, and the symbol for critical temperature is Tc. Now, what is the cause of this superconductivity? Why suddenly that particular substance is behaving as a superconductor? Near the transition temperature, that is the critical temperature, there is a weak attractive force between the electrons, and that weak electric force brings these electrons closer to each other to form the coupled pair. So they form the pair, and such coupled pairs are not deflected by the ionic vibrations, and they move without any collision. So if there is no collision between the particles, there is no resistivity for the flow of current. And there is an effect, that is the Meissner effect, that is closely related to this superconductivity. Let us consider a conductor which is placed in magnetic field, and this symbol B represents the magnetic field lines. Now, when the temperature is greater than this critical temperature, in that case, the field lines flow in this manner, straight. But whenever the temperature is less than that critical temperature, it means we are cooling the environment in which this particular metal or substance is placed. In that case, you can see the effect. The magnetic field lines are not crossing this particular metal like in this previous case, and they are being curved like this, bulged out through this conductor. So this expulsion of the magnetic flux from the superconductivity is when it is cooled at a temperature below the critical temperature in a magnetic field, and this particular effect is known as Meissner effect. So through this Meissner effect, we are obtaining this given conductor as a superconductor. Now, what are the various applications of superconductors? In levitation transports, levitating trains, you are aware that in Japan especially and some other countries, we are having levitating trains. In those, the train is flowing over the rail of or the track of that rail, and they acquire very high speed because of that repulsion acquired. So this is the conductor and this is the magnetic field. So magnetic field provides the flow to those trains, and that is the levitating, flowing over that particular track. Now the superconductors are also used for the storage of memory at high-speed computers, in high-speed computers. Long distance power transmissions without any wastage of power. Superconductors are used in our sensitive galvanometer, and these superconductors are also used in producing the very high magnetic fields. Now, our next topic is the resistances. Now you had studied what a resistance is, and you had already studied in your 10th class the combinations of resistances. The resistances can be combined in series or parallel combination. So this is a simple circuit diagram for the series combination of resistors. Here we are having 3 resistors with resistances R1, R2 and R3. V is the total potential difference for this combination. V1, V2, V3 are the potential differences for resistor 1, resistor 2, resistor 3, and I is the current flowing through the circuit. Now we know that for a series combination, the current remains constant for all the resistors, and what is varying here? The potential. So current remains constant. Applying the Ohm's law, V equals to IR. For first resistor, V1 is IR1. For second resistor, V2 is IR2. For third resistor, V3 is IR3. Let RS be the equivalent resistor for this whole series combination. So from that, again applying the Ohm's law, V is equals to IRS. Also, this is the total sum of these. So combining the terms, what we are getting, current being constant for all the resistor, RS is equals to R1 plus R2 plus R3. And if we are considering n number of resistors, in that case, total equivalent resistance for the circuit will be R1 plus R2 plus R3 till Rn. And you had studied all this in your 10th class as well. Now, what are the various laws for resistances in series? Current remains constant. Equivalent resistance, that is RS, is sum of the individual resistances. Total potential is sum of the potentials, that is V is equals to V1 plus V2 and so on. And the individual potential drop is proportional to the individual resistance, that is like this. And the equivalent resistance, this R is greater than the individual resistance. So this equivalent resistance is larger than the largest individual resistance. So this is the series combination of resistors. Now let us consider a case for the parallel combination of the resistors. Again, let us consider three resistors R1, R2, R3 connected parallel to each other. In parallel combination, the potential remains constant and the current varies. So I1, I2, I3 will be the current for these resistors. Applying Ohm's law, again this will be the case for the equivalent resistance. We know that total current is sum of all the currents. Applying the formula of Ohm's law, substituting the terms, and again what we are getting that 1 upon Rp is equals to 1 upon R1 plus 1 upon R2 plus 1 upon R3. This is the case for n resistors connected in parallel. Now let us conclude the laws of resistances in parallel. Potential drop across each resistor is same. Total current is sum of individual current through each resistor. Current is proportional to 1 upon R, that is the reciprocal of resistor. If resistance increases, current decreases. 1 upon Rp, that is the reciprocal of the equivalent resistance, is sum of the reciprocal of individual resistances, and the equivalent resistance is always less than the smallest of the given resistor. So with this we completed the series and parallel combination for the resistances. Now you can solve numericals based on the series and parallel combinations in order to practice this, and these laws are to be remembered for solving the numerical problems.